Okay, so I want to welcome everybody. My name is Daniel Lashansky, and I'm with the League of Women Voters of Palm Beach County, Florida. I am the web manager. We use a Club Express platform, which I think many of you do as well. And I'm also the special projects coordinator. We're very proud of the work we do in Palm Beach County, and I'm sure you're proud of the work that you do in your local leagues as well. We have about 600 members of our league, and we have a lot of activities. Advocacy, what you're going to hear tonight, the work that Rich does is one of our standout teams, and I'm sure you're going to learn a lot. I am going to mute everybody, and so we have a lot of chats going on. Okay, so I'm going to mute everyone, and then if you have questions in the chat, I'm sorry, if you have questions, please put them in the chat. I just have to unmute our speaker. Rich, can you unmute
I'll do it again. There I am.
Okay. There you go. Great. Okay. So just a quick thing. How did we get to this program today? It was very simple. Those of you who are involved in Club Express, there are forums where people can help each other. And one of the people in a forum said, does anyone have an observer corps? We want to start one and we need some help. So I said, yeah, we have a great one. If you want, I'll put you in touch with our chair. And within an hour, there were 15 other requests. Me too, me too, me too. Well, so far we have 84 participants in the room. We have a lot more registrants who really want to see the recording as well. So there apparently is a big need for what we're doing today. The program will be about 40 minutes, Rich's presentation, and that'll leave us plenty of time for Q&A. Please put your questions in the chat. That's where we're going to take the questions from, and you'll hear the answers. Every registrant, whether you're here or not, will receive an email, a follow-up email with a link to the recording. You'll also receive a handful of slides from the presentation, those that Rich thought would be very useful to you. So without further ado, a brief introduction of our presenter, Rich Bartholomew. He is the chair of the advocacy team in our local chapter. Rich spent 47 years in government at all levels, and he had assignments overseas for the United States and also for international organizations. He's been an active member of the Palm Beach County League since 2018. So Rich, it's all yours.
Thank you very much. I appreciate everybody taking some time on their Monday evening. We'll get right into it. If the slides will come up, we'll start talking. All right. So I want you to please understand that every word you're looking at has been chosen carefully. We're going to talk about monitoring, which some people call an observer corps, but I think that monitoring is the right word in the way it's done these days. All right. And we're going to talk about interacting with public officials and their staff. You've got to be able to work with staff to find out a lot about what goes on. Next slide, please. So a lot of you have seen this slide. I just want to point you to the words at the bottom there. What the league does is it educates itself and other people, and very often based on its education, it advocates. And we're going to talk about both of these things tonight. Next slide, please. All right, so the two obvious tasks of monitoring are observing directly or tracking indirectly official activities of whatever jurisdiction it is that you are trying to monitor. The second piece that's just as important is that from that monitoring, you've got to have people that can report relevant information to the leaders or the committees of your league. Next slide, please. Now, these days, monitoring is basically, I would present to you an online business. It used to be that the observer corps, the monitors, had to troop down to the place where things were happening, the county council, the state legislature, the town commission. These days, pretty much everybody is online, along with their calendars, agendas, their meetings. And to be a monitor, you got to know what's going on. You got to know when things are occurring, when action will happen, when things will be considered. Next slide, please. Now, there's lots of official media available. We asked you in the preliminary email we sent out to check the web sources available where you live, whether it's a town, county, or state website. There's a lot of information available on the web and a lot of access available. And this is the primary method of monitoring and observing these days. Most governments not only have official websites, but they have cable TV stations. A lot of them have YouTube or Facebook sites that you can also use to do this job. And I see some of you nodding, and you're familiar with tracking things using these electronic devices. Next slide, please. So my advice to you, and remember, what you're hearing here is Richard's opinion, okay? This is not the opinion of the state of Florida. This is not the position of the president of our league. This is Rich talking after all those years doing this stuff. So the first advice I'd like to give you is when you're doing monitoring, try to use monitors, members of your league who live in the jurisdiction that's being monitored, all right? So if it's a town council, you really want to look for somebody from that town if you're tracking something they're trying to do. If it's a state institution, virtually everybody is going to be a constituent and a resident and a voter of that state. So, of course, what you got to do is your homework. You got to scan whatever published agendas there are ahead of schedule using those websites and determine then what should be monitored. Now, I just looked at my local town council meeting and I knew that there was nothing I needed to monitor this week because I saw the agenda, I know who's speaking, and there is nothing of interest to us going on in my town in Florida this week. So you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to always show up and try to watch everything that happens. Much of what happens officially is stuff you know you want to ignore. You want to follow the things that your league cares about. Next slide, please. All right. So you can observe live, but very often now we observe recorded meetings at times convenient to the monitor. It's very important that the monitor have choices about when they're going to do their work, or this becomes a burden. We'll talk a little more about that. Everyone should subscribe to official email and newsletters that go out. I have a lot of information coming into me from both my town, my county, and the legislature that I can scan to see what's going on and what I need to pay attention to. And after the fact, you can almost always, in most cases, check published meeting minutes online. So maybe you couldn't watch, but you want to just check the minutes to see what happened. And maybe you want to zero in on that and follow up on it, all right? But all these things should be available in some electronic format. Next slide, please. Now, this is going to be sent to you, but I just gave you examples from around the country of places where you can go in these locations. The places you're going to look for in your local or state jurisdiction should look like something like this, either the state legislature, the county. I don't know if Chris and Rob, I'm not sure what county they're in, but this is the Moore County portal to show you what's going on in Moore County, North Carolina. But we're going to send that out so you'll see some samples that you can use if you're searching for information in your area. Next slide, please. Here's an example for Albany. The reason I put this up is that Albany, you observe Albany a lot on YouTube, okay? And that's pretty common. Next slide, please. And I put Evanston up because they are on local cable TV channels. Many jurisdictions are on local cable TV, not only live, but when they're not live, they often rerun stuff. And it's a place where you can look, but you have to ask your cable service or run through the channels that are on your cable to see where it is you can monitor what's going on in your jurisdiction. Next slide, please. Now, you've got to support your monitors. You're asking them to spend a definite amount of time, probably every week, certainly every month, to watch what's going on. So you got to let them choose how they're going to monitor. You don't tell the monitor they've got to sit there and watch the 9-hour county council meeting. That's not fair, and it's not productive, and it'll get you an X monitor if you're not careful, right? And also, you've got to work with them on a reporting format that is not drudgery, something that allows them to report in, but doesn't burden them too much, especially with things that are not essential to what you're trying to find out. And absolutely, you've got to give them feedback. They've got to feel that the work that they're doing, the monitoring and the reporting, is getting paid attention to. So you've got to reinforce their work and thank them for it all the time. Now, a lot of you I know are moms, and you know how to do this very well with husbands and children. But I think it's really critical because monitoring is a long-term job, and it's something that needs support from the people that are doing the asking. Next slide, please. Now, there's all kinds of ways to report. You can use a short memo, all right? You can use a bullet form. You can use verbal reports once, twice a month, however important it is to whoever needs to know. Maybe it's the president, maybe it's a committee chair. We use Zoom reports every month. We have an hour, and everybody who's been monitoring has the first place on our agenda. All the monitors report in what they've been watching and what, if anything, was interesting in their jurisdiction. And a lot of these are big jurisdictions in Palm Beach County, Florida. We are a county of 1.5 million people with very large towns and cities. So if Zoom works for you, use it. If short memos work for you, use it. Next slide, please. Now, I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to ask Dan if he has a question that he wants to ask me from whatever he's looking at, from whatever you're asking in the chats.
I have two questions I'm going to start with now. The first one is from Christine, and she asks, if we don't attend the meetings, how do we know that open meeting rules are being followed?
Well, usually because you're watching a video, you can see whether or not the local rules. Most jurisdictions have very formal rules about how they will deal with things, who can speak and for how long, okay? So it's easy to watch, and I would say that's the best question. Do you have another one, Dan?
I have another one. You sort of hit on a lot of this, but the question is, what's the best way for a local chapter to actually set up their observer corps?
Well, you've got to get volunteers who are interested in finding out what the government's really up to. You're looking at me, but I represent a committee of people that are following all these local jurisdictions. I can't do this myself. So you have to divide up the work, and you have to decide where are you going to spend your time monitoring. Maybe you don't have enough people to track the state legislature, but maybe you do have enough people to track the county government, and maybe the county government, and maybe the biggest municipal jurisdiction. You got to pick your targets, and you got to make it work and make it a habit of your organization. So I'd like to keep going now. We started with monitoring, and we're going to finish with monitoring, but I want to take you some steps further, and I'm going to answer in another way one of those questions. Please don't stop at simple online monitoring, okay? You do need to make local officials aware of your league and that they're being watched. You want them to know that you are constituents who are watching what they're up to. That's very, very important for a league to do. So along the way, occasionally, you've got to interact personally with officials, with their staff. You've got to build some relationships over time. You know, you might have a couple of contacts a year with people you want to track and follow. And maybe you can build a relationship over time. Now, also, a lot of us wear different hats. We're not just league members, we're also parts of other organizations. And you can use those different hats also to build relationships. You can wear your different hats while officials get used to understanding that you care about what they're doing. Next slide. So here's some methods. We do issue advocacy, but we do it on a very localized basis. We are not the state league. The state league deals with the state legislature and the governor. We do stuff that's local, all right? So any quality monitoring is going to generate information that should cause your league to advocate, to want to represent something to these officials. There's all kinds of issues that can affect local leagues. Just the other day here in Connecticut, I saw that they were changing some of the administrative arrangements for voting in a town that I was passing through. I don't know what the issues are that concern your league. Many of us are concerned with education, with environment. We're all concerned with voting, but you've got to watch for issues that are of concern for you. There may be a new policy that's being adopted. Something new may be going on in that location that the league needs to know about and start tracking. Appointments are important. People run governments. You want to know who's in charge of what in whatever government that you're monitoring. And of course, you always want to follow the budget. You know, press releases and statements are one thing. The budget tells you what they really care about. And you want to review, maybe on an annual basis, whatever the budget document is, to see where they're spending the money. And in good budget documents, like they have in Texas, you can see what reasons they're spending it for. But most of the time, they just, yes, there, I can see that remark. The budget is absolutely where the policy rubber hits the road. Next slide, please. Now, you've got to be timely in what you're doing. You have to be monitoring often enough that you can keep track of whatever it is you're trying to do. Is something going on that was just announced? Maybe somebody said something in a meeting that caught everybody off, like a change in the voting rules or a new appointment of somebody that's going to have control of a program you care about? Has the matter been put into some kind of committee or review process? You know, has it gone to the, let's see, I had one the other night. They said that there's the rental appeals committee here in New Haven. That's a pretty big deal in a time of inflation and housing shortage. And you've really got to know when things are headed for some kind of a decision, whether it's in a committee or by full action. So you got to keep track and you got to watch as things develop. Next slide, please. Now, when you're interacting, you got to know who you're looking for. Vote 411 is a good place to find out. You want to know who works for them. Is it personal staff? Is it appointees? Is it a commissioner that's running a department? How well do you know the government? Maybe if you're becoming a monitor, you got to do a bunch of homework to understand how that local government is structured and what it's up to. Next slide, please. And here's all the ways you can do it. I love the local library. I can always find a lot of information about government there. They have tips about video, social media. They have information. They tell me where to look for press stories. They help me with my Google searches by asking the right questions. They often keep official publications. They can tell me where I can look online for biographies of the officials I'm trying to monitor, which is very useful to do. I want to warn you to verify and cross-check sources when you're doing this. A lot of people are starting to use artificial intelligence, which often gives false information. If you're getting an answer only from artificial intelligence, you better cross-check it. I won't go into all the technical reasons. Next slide, please. Now, there's lots of different ways to communicate with officials and staff. Email is used a lot these days. You may be using it for some of the lobbying you're doing or questions you're asking. Obviously, you can use phone. Text is pretty popular with a lot of officials. Next slide. But the most important way to build relationships and get a sense of what's going on is face-to-face. I am a strong advocate of doing this at the most local location possible. All right. We all have capital visits. We have county days. We have state league days. But when you go to the state capitol, while it's great to raise the flag and get a sense of how the place works, that's where the maximum defenses are up, where the staff is being told to shuffle those people through. And it's the hardest time to actually get face-to-face with a lot of officials. Zoom visits are becoming very popular. My local social justice organization is really good at this, and we've been able to get access to a lot more officials by using convenient Zooms for them and us. Sometimes you just want to have connection with the staff. You can do it on the phone. You can do it in person. We recommend meeting the staff in person when you get a chance. Then, of course, there's public events. They may be giving a speech. They may be participating in some regular activity that happens where you live. You can invite them to a League of Women Voters event and get face-to-face with them and remind them that you're very interested in what they're doing and you're monitoring what they're doing. These are all ways you can have face-to-face contact with officials. Next slide, please. Now, ordinary ways that we all use are to make a public statement at an official meeting. Usually, this is very time constricted. If you're lucky, they're going to ask you questions. But very often what you're doing is just letting not only the public officials, but the people attending the meeting know that the league cares about whatever it is you're talking about. And again, I can see Evelyn shaking her head, and she knows how this works. You can visit in a delegation. We recommend if you do a face-to-face contact of any time, it's good to visit with at least two people. So there are witnesses to whatever happened, and memories can be jogged by each of you. So you can see the pictures at the bottom, right? You could be in a delegation, you could be making a statement, or you could buttonhole somebody outside the chamber. You can have a brief conversation with them. And very often, this is a very effective way to let somebody know that the league is watching and that they care about some specific thing that's going on. And remember, I'm not talking about doing this every month. I'm talking about doing this 2 times a year, maybe, to get face-to-face. Next slide, please. Okay, and what's the purpose of what you're doing, okay? Most of the time you're trying to learn information. That's why you monitor. It's also very often why you go into direct contact with officials or staff. Maybe you're serving a purpose of introducing your league to an official who doesn't know you. Maybe you have a good idea that you heard about from the league in the next county, and you want to introduce that idea. You want to propose an idea to somebody that could use that information because you know that it's working somewhere else close by, and it's a good example. Maybe you really want to advocate. Maybe you really want to lobby and say that you're in favor of something they're doing, or you want to oppose something they're doing. Professional lobbyists think that the opposition work they do is the most important work that they actually do. Next slide, please. Now, there are lots of less formal ways to connect with officials and staff. There's lots of holiday events, historical events. We have something going on. There's a fireman's barbecue going on over here that's an annual fundraiser for them. But the town council is going to be there, probably the state legislator. These are great places to make contact. Coffee with a cop is pretty common in Florida. I don't know if you have it in other states, but it's a good way to talk directly with police officials in your jurisdiction. Officials go to receptions in your area. It might be the junior league is having a reception and the woman mayor is going to show up because it's the junior league. It's a great place to have a few seconds to remind them that you're there and the league is interested in what they're doing. Okay. Next slide, please. Now, I want to brag to you that where I live in Jupiter, Florida, is the gold standard of informal contact. Every 90 days, all the elected officials and the department heads and a lot of the staff make themselves available for about 90 minutes at a coffee shop. It's completely open season. You can ask them about anything that's going on. You can propose something. You can get a sense of who the city manager is or the fire chief or the police chief. I had very interesting conversations with my police chief about how they handle homeless people in the town where I live. But this was invented by a very active, just reelected woman who's a terrific town councilor. This is a wonderful way to informally and easily talk with your officials. We wrote it up on our website. We were so impressed with this level of access. And I gave you the website down there. You can take a look at this at jupiter.florida.us. Next slide, please. All right. Who has the ability to do what you want? Who knows what it is you're looking for? All right. Very often it's not an elected official. It might be a specific legislator. It might be a commissioner of some type, and that covers a lot of people. It might be a council that exists, the Ethics Council, for example. It could be a board member that is in charge of reviewing something. It could be a committee chair. It could be the mayor. But very often it's a manager, it's an agency head, or the staff person that they rely on when they're preparing to do work or who they're giving instructions to. So you want to, as you get familiar with your government, you want to know who the right person is to talk to find out more about what you want to know. Next slide, please. This is very common. We use this in Washington. We use it with the state legislature. If there's a point you're trying to get across or something you want them to know, never more than one page. Make a handout that at least a couple of people have looked at that makes your point and doesn't waste their time. It gets to the point, tells them what you need to know. Next slide. This is an example from Florida used in the state legislature. You can see it's just a couple of bullets. It tells you about our position on Medicaid, and it tells you where to go to get more information. But it's very concise, and because it's short, it has a much better chance to get read. Okay? Next slide, please. Now, if you're doing an in-person office meeting, hopefully with at least 2 people, go early, curry some time with the staff, look for what's going on around the office, just like you do on the website. Look for any press releases they have, newsletters, awards they got, schedules of what they're up to, photos of who they got their photo taken with. I love to look at who else is there visiting, and I love to look at sign-in logs to see who else is talking to them. I often take pictures with my camera of the sign-in logs to see who else is relating to that office. Next slide, please. Now, in-person meetings, you introduce yourself, agree on the time available at the start. You may not get all the time you want. Make sure you have your handout available right away, and make sure you listen. You are there to learn how they think, and even if they're completely hostile to the league and what it is you want to learn about, that's important information for you to know. There's a wonderful philosophical American philosopher who said, a man who knows what a tiger is a man who knows what to do in the presence of a tiger. You never heard of that guy, but it's really good advice. And you need to know what to do in the presence of these officials who have power. Next slide, please. Expect that they're busy. Expect that your time might be cut short. Don't wait. Get to the point. Make your point right away. Don't spend a lot of time socializing. Make sure you get your message up front. And then if you have time and they want to talk, then it's okay to socialize about whose cousin is married to the mayor's sister or whatever. It's all okay. But when you're in a face-to-face meeting, because very often they are abruptly shortened, you've got to get that message across. If you go to my state delegation's website, they'll tell you, don't come to talk about more than one issue. Make sure that you hone your message. Make sure they know what it is you want to talk about. Don't wander when you're trying to make an impression. Next slide, please. Now, there's a lot of stuff going on today that a lot of us do not like. It's actually very difficult to deal in these hyper-partisan, very politically divided times with a lot of elected officials who we disagree with. But if you go into that meeting and you are aggressive, dismissive, sarcastic, they're going to turn you off before you get to learn anything or say anything. It could be that you're walking into the lion's den and they already don't want to talk to you. They're talking to you maybe because their staff said they had to, all right? But it's really important to be cordial. Listen to their responses, active listening. Make sure at some point in the conversation that you tell them you appreciate their responsibility. You know, it's a tough job there in the health district dealing with those mental health issues, and you appreciate that they have tough decisions to make, all right? But you never need to agree with them, okay? You can be respectful and you can say that, well, you disagree for this reason, but you understand because they've explained it to you, their position. The rules of civility in government go right back to George Washington, who published these things and taught people how to be civil in government relations. You can find those in your local library and they're instructive. Next slide, please. Now, when you're having a meeting, be sure that you end at the agreed time. Don't try to drag it out. They're busy people. Specify any next steps. Can you meet with them next year before the session starts? Are there contacts they want you to make? I was doing some heavy lobbying for our county in Tallahassee, and one of the legislators told me, go see the chairman of this committee and tell him I sent you and give him the information you just gave me. Help me to get the message across, okay? So I did precisely what he said, and I reported back that I did precisely what he told me to do, all right? On your way out the door, remember those staff people? Mary, thanks a lot for helping us do this meeting today. There's a good chance that you're going to need to call Mary or Robert sometime in the future to get more information. And the more they know who you are, the easier it's going to be for you to deal with that official in that office. Next slide, please. Now, make good on your commitments. You should always send an email to follow up, okay? Promise to be available for the future if they want more information from you, which I hope they will. Next slide. Follow up. Here we are, back where we started, monitoring. Now you've got to monitor whatever it is you've been working on, you've been learning about, you've been building some relationships about. Be ready to resume contact with Mary or Robert at the desk when it's necessary. I just had a very key thing happen with a state legislator. There was a vote taken in a committee, but I knew that the staff member would tell me what happened. when it would be almost impossible to get a hold of the legislator. Then report the results to everybody that needs to know. My boss used to love to tell me, take appropriate action. That could mean a lot of different things based on what you're finding out. Next slide, please. Now, for advanced work in what we do, consult with other constituents, people who have the same interests and are interested in your stuff. You're going to get a slide from me of the state, local, and national associations, some of which I worked for and very closely with, that are gold mines of information about issues and what's going on in other counties and other states. This is very helpful stuff, and these are useful things that I hope you would be able to use in the future. That's why I'm sending you this slide. Next slide, please. These are some of the examples. You're going to get these. I'm not going to take time. Next slide, please. Now, the last thing I'm going to tell you is what we do is we do positive reinforcement. We work when we monitor to find them doing something right. We don't care what it is. If the league thinks that this is a good thing to do, like connect with the council or appropriating the money for that new health center, we tell them about it. We tell them that we were monitoring. We like what they did. And we use our league resources to give them positive feedback, whether it's at a meeting or whether it's on our own website, or we write a letter to the editor. But we want them to know that no matter what we're doing on whatever issue, there are some things they're going to do that we like, and that's a good way to build a relationship. By the way, if you want to give an award, be very careful. Never give an award to an individual in a group. Give an award to the delegation or the commission. You can set off a lot of jealousy if you're giving a league award to one person out of 7 people that serve. Next slide, please. Now, we want you to do what we've talked about. All right? We want you to go out there and try everything I've asked you to do. Okay? Identify an official, monitor them, contact their office. As a voter, remember, we asked you to have people monitor who have legitimate voting and constituent interests, if at all possible, right? So contact them. You know, I voted for you in the last election and I need to know blah, blah, blah. If you have nothing you want to advocate about, simply ask them about their current priorities. They love to talk about what it is they're doing, the good things that they want the public to know about. Asking the question about their current priorities is a great way to engage any official or their staff, okay? If you have a position or a question, fine. And then thank them for whatever information they gave you in whatever format you did this. Whether it's a phone call, a Zoom meeting, an email, however you did it. But we'd like you, if you want to be in the monitoring business, to go and try what we've asked. Now, I'm giving you information, not just from my own experience, but from people in our league, especially our past president, Karen Wilkerson, who did this for many years, who did this training I'm doing right now. These are all good practices, but we don't want you just to know this. We want you to do it. So get out there, monitor, advocate. Good luck. I'm going to take questions now. We've got 90 folks, so we need time for questions. Dan, what have you got?
Okay, Linda, we can stop that. So before I do questions, and we have a lot of great questions, I want to thank the person who's been running the slides. This whole project is not as easy as it looks. So big kudos to Linda Kramer, one of our members and staff who's been there behind the scenes making it all happen. So I'm going to skip to some of the last questions because there was a whole bunch back and forth. And they were talking about the issue that if only the president of a chapter is supposed to speak for the chapter, how do we then go and speak to the local officials and their staff? Are we there to advocate? Are we there to observe? Where do those lines get drawn?
Those lines get drawn very locally by your own leadership. Okay. So, for example, in our county, only the president speaks to the press. That's it. Nobody else speaks to the press. We are in a very sophisticated place, and that has to be done by the responsible party. But for a lot of other things, our committee leaders have responsibility to do things, to make those kinds of public statements, to monitor what's going on in, say, the school board. We monitor the school board. Okay. We have an education committee. We have interlocking arrangements between the advocacy committee and the committees of jurisdiction. So we're very careful about who has authority to do what. If somebody goes in front of the state legislature at state legislative delegation at the annual hearings they run throughout our county, you have to have that cleared, the statement cleared by the proper authorities. You have to be authorized to make that public statement. Remember, sometimes you're fishing for information. Other times you're trying to introduce or raise the league's profile in your area. It depends on what your purpose is and who should be authorized to do that. I hope that's a good enough answer based on our practice. Other question, Dan?
So what kind of training do monitors get so that they produce objective and factual reports and sort of not be leaning one way or the other and bias? How does that happen?
Well, we do this, we learn by doing. Okay. Remember, my reporting system in advocacy, where we have a bunch of people following a whole bunch of different jurisdictions, we do this on Zoom. People come on and they give a report to the other monitors. Okay. And by necessity, these are usually brief, but it gives flavor to the other people and it gives a style of monitoring. Everybody's different, right? Some people are very pithy and they get it done with a couple of bullet points. Other people need to talk for 10 minutes. It's your style. But we accept, we appreciate the monitor is taking the time to do this, and we try to nurture their personal style. So if they're quick, we take their quick remarks and they report to everybody else and we thank them for their report. If they need to talk for a while or they want to write a long memo for something that came up, we circulate that to everybody because it was something important and they have very specialized knowledge that the rest of us don't. And this is especially true in things like education and healthcare and environment, where members have their own backgrounds. And this has something usually to do with their willingness to monitor. Next.
So, sort of as a segue, a lot of people want to know, do you have a standard observer monitoring form that you use? Or is
No,
it just
I don't.
sort of?
I gave you an example in the slide, but you should make your own that should be tailored to your own needs if you want to use a form. Um, in some of those countries where I've worked, we studied the art of writing a government form. There's a true art to whatever it is you're prompting people to respond. I like to do it verbally in my committee, but other committees need more written documents, and it's up to the needs that the person authorizing and encouraging the monitor should do. There's nothing wrong with a form. I like verbal reports. Do it your own way. Do what works for you. Next question.
In your experience, do legislators pay more attention to handwritten letters than other forms of communications? Is there a better way to communicate with legislators and their staff?
I believe that they respond best to constituents and they respond to personal connections, no matter how you did it, whether it was by email or phone. Um, I send something out to somebody. I understand this issue is coming up in your committee. As my representative on that committee, could you tell me what is going to be considered and whether or not you think it's going to pass? Okay. But I always take the very most local angle that I can. Um, I believe that they respond to constituents. The other people they respond to is other elected and appointed officials. The best lobbyists are almost always elected and senior appointed officials. They're dealing with each other every day. And if they will take your point, if your committee member takes your point to the chair of the committee, that's the best shot you're going to get in terms of getting something attended to. All right. So always think of these officials as potential representatives of you and your league. All right. Next.
I just want to make a comment because I saw there was a comment by Alice in the chat, which I thought was good. So they do use a regular form rather than long prose, and they do it on a Google form. So there's a suggestion for those of you that want to use a form. So, Rich, do you have a suggestion? Gina commented that her school board has stopped allowing public comments on issues if the issue is not specifically on the agenda. And she says that's a problem because there are lots of issues in a school district and they don't all make it to the agenda for that meeting.
Not only that, but frequently they've already had a discussion before they sit and they've talked about what they're going to do. This was especially true in a county council I served in Delaware. They knew what they were going to do, and the meetings were highly structured and run by an engineer who was always going to finish on time. In those situations, you've got to cultivate the staff and whichever member of the school board represents you. We've spent a lot of time building a relationship with our league and my particular school board member. And because we've built a relationship, he comes to our meetings. He wants to tell us about what he's doing, and he's available. We just had a very tough funding issue going on in the school board, but because we've built a relationship, he and his staff are responsive to our questions and our inquiries. He sees us as somebody that cares about what he's doing and will give him positive reinforcement for what he did. Now, he lobbied very hard in this issue I contacted him about, and he was very proud to tell us, and we're going to follow up and let everybody know that he had something to do with the good result.
Okay. Shelley wants to know if you recommend monitoring all meetings or as many as you can, or just the ones that have agendas of interest to the league?
Definitely monitor the things that have agenda interest to the league. But that doesn't mean you can ignore what's going on. You've got to watch them mostly on video to get some flavor. And at least once a year, please do it the old-fashioned way. Go down there, watch them in person, watch the body language, see what the staff is up to, what's the clerk doing. It's very good to at least once a year, if you're a monitor, watch them in person to get these extra cues and also to get a little buttonhole time.
Two more questions.
Okay.
The first is, especially with all that monitoring, how do you manage information overload?
Well, it's really hard because there's too much going on. But that's why we divide the task up and we have different people. One of our monitors is a terrific, feisty retired woman, has recently proposed that we have in her jurisdiction, which is a big, sophisticated jurisdiction with a lot of issues, she's proposed forming a posse. She said that it's not enough for her to be the monitor. So this year, she's going to form a posse of people that watch different departments and activities. Most of us don't have enough. My league is lucky because we have so many people. But think about division of tasks when you're doing this. No one can do it all. It's good to have backups, a little duplication, if at all possible. Okay?
And I think the last question is, how do you feel about making the observer reports public posting them on the website, disseminating them to the rest of the members of the league?
Well, there you go. Transparency, right? We want the government to be transparent. Do we want to be transparent? When I worked for the U.S. Senate, I followed the rule as a staffer that I would not transmit any written document that I did not want to read in the Washington Post. That was the rule. It wasn't my rule. It was the rule everybody followed. Okay. So you got to think about that. If you want to post information, go ahead. Now, when we do our Zoom meetings as well, which are recorded, which people can see, we start every Zoom meeting by reminding everybody that we are not a partisan organization. We don't support particular candidates, but we do monitor, we do advocate, we are actively involved civically. So you've got to use some discretion in terms of anything that's going public. Okay? Sometimes we have meetings after the meetings when we turn the recording off.
Okay, I just want one last comment. This came from Alice, just so everybody knows as a reminder, especially if you're just starting an Observer Corps, that there is a handbook of guidelines on the LWV US website. So you'll have to go there and do your normal search and try to locate it. But there are some guidelines if there's any other questions. I will be sending out to everybody who registered, probably tomorrow, a link to the recording for this website, as well as the slides I mentioned earlier, some of the slides that Rich wants you to have. If you have any questions, there will be an email address there. You can direct them to us, and we'll see if we can get you an answer to your specific questions. So with that, a huge thank you to Rich for this presentation, and a big thank you to all of you for attending. We appreciate it. We hope you've learned something. Go out and do good work. So,
Rob and Chris, it's great to see you.
thank you all so much. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.